Five, four, three, two, one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ollie Tripodi. I'm the 2013 Youth Governor. It is my immense pleasure to be joined by some of the most incredible and, I would say, decorated alumni of the Youth Parliament program. For 27 years, the Youth Parliament of Victoria has demonstrated to all of Victoria that young people aren't a silent demographic. We're a demographic that cares about ideas but not necessarily ideology. I remember watching a Barack Obama speech, the inauguration speech, and he was standing there in front of millions and millions of people around the world, and he said, "I'm only here because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants." Now, I remember hearing that phrase and thinking, wow, what an incredible phrase, what an incredible sentence, what does that mean? So I looked it up, and Isaac Newton actually said the same thing. He said, "I can only see further because I am standing on the shoulders of giants." And I thought, oh, Barack Obama, that cheeky fella, he's actually nicked that phrase off Isaac. And then I looked it up, and Isaac actually stole that phrase of Bernard de Chartres, who was an enlightened thinker in the 12th century. And Bernard de Chartres said in French, and I translate, that I can only see the distance that I see because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And that phrase means that the accomplishments that we are able to do, our achievements, are only possible because of those who came before us. And right now, I'm honoured. I'm more than honoured. I'm proud to be on this panel with this incredible bunch of youth parliamentarians who have done so much to shape the world around us and so much to shape Victoria. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce, from right to left, the 2013 Youth Premier. Jared, would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience with Youth Parliament?
Yeah, for sure. So I got involved with the Y, first of all, doing a camp called You Know Why, and that introduced me to Youth Parliament. That's what's led me here. Got in touch with Eric Kerr, a local councillor who did the program last year. He got me on board, and you know, I knew what the environment at the Y was like, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah. So I jumped on board, and here I am today.
And Chris, you're also a former Youth Premier.
Yes.
What year were you Youth Premier?
Yes, just last year I was the 2012 Youth Premier, and I think having been a part of it and not having heard about it before, I think it's just a good indicator of all kinds of people who can join such a fantastic program. And yeah, glad to be broadcasting from my former home university now that I've graduated here at Swinburne.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to hand over to a former youth parliamentarian, now task force member, and also a good friend of mine, Mr. William Stoikovsky.
Yeah, so I guess I did the program in 2009 and 2010, and then as soon as I was able to join task force, I put the application in straight away, just because of how much the program meant to me and how much I knew I wanted to lead on it. And I was successful, and now here I am, second year task force, and yeah, good friend of Ollie's and good friend of everyone's, really. But yeah, so here I am.
Yeah, welcome, mate.
And
then to the left of me, I'm pleased to introduce Dilara Yilna. Yeah, got it right. Just testing you. So well done. Dilara, tell us a little bit about your experience with Youth Parliament.
Well, I did my first year in 2011 and my second year in 2012. And I was really, I don't know, I was really humbled to be given that opportunity to speak in Parliament House and express my views. And I've become so passionate about the program that I've actually applied to be an intern this year. Cool. So yeah, next week or the week after, I'm not sure. I'll be doing the media as part of the program, Dilara, and hopefully task force.
Much like a samurai has people that are scared of a sword, I remember youth parliamentarians being scared of your tongue for your incredible speaking prowess in chambers. Do you miss the public speaking, or?
Yeah, actually, I was involved with public speaking as part of my school.
Yeah.
So I was part of the Lions Youth of the Year program.
Whoa.
And that was really great. I got to represent Brunswick, and I didn't make it through, but it was a great opportunity.
Yeah, cool. And I'd like to hand over to Rainbow now, whose real name is actually Andrew, and why we call him Rainbow, I am still not entirely sure.
And you'll never know.
I will know one day, good sir. I will know. Mate, you're a very notable alumni of the Youth Parliament program, but also of the YMCA. How did you fall into Youth Parliament back in the day?
I'm old, so 2000. I don't look it with this haircut, but 2002 was my first year.
Sure.
Coincidentally, Erin was my team captain.
What?
And forced me. Like, actually, I tried to drop out numerous times, and I was kind of the type that would never think to do a program like Youth
Yeah.
Parliament. Went through the whole week, and then I guess at the end of the week, like being one of those kind of shit kids, and got to the end of the week and was just like changed, and
Yeah.
was like, I need to do this, I need to run it.
That is something I think a lot of people feel is
Yeah.
as soon as they discover Youth Parliament for the first time, they're expecting it to be a bit of a nerd camp, to be a little bit lame, but it's not, is it?
Then you get jelly smooshed into your face, and you're like, oh, this is fantastic.
This is not so bad.
And then somehow this wild card got a shot on Task Force the following year. So I
Yeah.
never did it once as a participant.
Cool.
Went away for years and came back on Task Force in 2009 and did a few more years on Task Force. And I was actually Delara's mentor
Oh, wow.
in my final year, which is fun.
It's a cycle. And Erin Dale, your name is a name that comes up a lot when we try to think of the famous alumni of Youth Parliament, people who have been youth parliamentarians in the past, sometimes on task force, and I believe you're a youth governor, who have gone on to do incredible, incredible things. I was just talking to you before over a slice of cheeky Hawaiian pizza. And it was incredible to hear about what you've done since you finished Youth Parliament. How did you fall into it initially?
Initially, I was dragged kicking and screaming, which is something that does happen quite
Yeah.
often with us youth parliamentarians, and that was way back in 2001.
Yeah.
So I was a participant in 2001 and 2002 and joined Task Force.
Yeah.
Was the head of communications in 2006, created the first website back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was also youth governor in 2006 as well.
Wow, that's a really, really incredible accomplishment. And I think that everyone here in the audience would agree with me that we're really, really lucky to have such an incredible and illustrious panel joined here to talk about youth engagement. It strikes me that people do Youth Parliament for various reasons. Some do it because they're interested in politics, and some do it because they like debating, and some people do it because their parents forced them or their teachers forced them into it. I remember my mum saying, Ollie, you have to go, and me just thinking, oh, loving it, and now being proudly a nerd. That young people are more engaged than adults give them credit for. Jared, I want to start with you again because you are the Youth Premier, you're the representative of young people. Do you think that adults will always look down on young people? Do you think Youth Parliament has a say in how we're seen?
No, I think definitely Youth Parliament gives us that opportunity to be that voice. And I think it's shown that, to answer your question, it's shown in the past 25 bills have gone on to actually make change in the law. So I think that's showing that they are listening to us and that we are having a say, essentially.
Absolutely. And Chris, I mean, you'd have to agree with that as well, wouldn't you? As a former youth premier, you'd believe that, you know, the capacity of young people to make change is something that's constantly underestimated.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that whole underestimating young people needs to be destroyed because when you stand up there and you speak and you hear all the other changes there, it stirs something so powerful. And I think that's common across all young people, and this is an excellent way to tap into that.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And Delara, I'm going to jump to you here again because, Delara, it still boggles me that you're 17 years of age. In my mind, you are this accomplished, 30-year-old businesswoman who's got, 4 yachts and a car. And I know that is ridiculous, and that's probably my own ingrained idea of what age and success looks like. But, do you think that young people are marginalised in Victoria?
I think so because, as you said, we don't get enough credit, and this program really does show that, despite what some may think of us, youth are really passionate about making change, and it's programs like this that empower youth such as myself to, express our opinions and get our voice heard in a forum that really matters, and it's really great.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
the fact
it's very cool.
Well, we think so, evidently. But it is cool that we're able to have our voices heard, but not tokenistically. People listen to what we have to say, and then they think about it, and they go, that's actually a really, really good idea. And for 25 instances, Jared, you pointed out, Youth Parliament mock pieces of legislation have gone on to become real law. Rainbow, I want to jump to you as well. I hope you don't mind me revealing this. You are no longer within the youth category, 16 to 25.
No.
You have jumped over it just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But you remain, I suppose, ardently passionate about the welfare of young people and the voice that young people have in Victoria. What do you have to say to claims that youth are apathetic, that they're lazy, that they're unengaged?
I think they can be.
Sure.
However, given the opportunity to look outside of, the normal situation. Like if I hadn't have gotten involved in a program like this, I think back when I was a high school kid, I really didn't care about much that didn't involve me and my friends. And I think once young people are generally passionate and have energy and all that stuff, and once it's properly utilised, like through a program like this, and I think the reason a program like this does utilise it so well is because it's young people running it, and that they're young people who have been part of that initial transformation and want to come back and want to do great things and want to give that back. And so it becomes this beautiful cycle of actually taking care of the next group. And so I mean, I'm old and I'm out.
I wouldn't say old,
but like I'm just as passionate because of what a wonderful thing this is. And there's, you know, there are so many great programs out like this. I think once you get once people kind of find them, if they're lucky enough to, they do go on to do amazing things, and it does become really powerful in lots of people's lives. So I guess that's why I'm still so passionate.
And look, Erin, we're going to touch on this a little bit later about some of the incredible accomplishments you have achieved since Youth Parliament. But would you say that you would have been as well set up to sort of enter the working world as you have been without Youth Parliament? Has it given you something personally?
Absolutely. At a basic level, I wanted to study politics in Year 12 and I couldn't afford it. So I wrote to my local member of Parliament and asked for some money to help out. I learnt how to do that. I learnt how to advocate in Youth Parliament. She wrote back and said, here's $200.
Wow.
So you can study politics by correspondence in Year 12. Also, would you like a job? I said, I'd love a job. I'm really passionate about completing my VCE and doing quite well. I'll come back next year. And that was 2004, and that was an election year. And I went on to work for federal members of Parliament for 7 years.
Amazing.
But I didn't know how to stand up. I didn't know how to talk hard and be heard. But I didn't actually know how to pick up a pen and write to a member of Parliament. I didn't know how to, but I didn't even know that they would listen, they would care, that I could do that. So it gave me some pretty basic skills that I'm still using today.
It does. Youth Parliament, I think, once again, has an eclectic and wonderful array of advantages for young people to benefit from. I certainly remember sort of loving the idea that thoughts were a valuable commodity, but I was unable to share them. I remember trying to stand up in Parliament House and literally forgetting how to speak English, but my body remembered how to sweat, and I was just perspiring profusely, but unable to say anything. And by the end of Youth Parliament, if not anything else, you learn the gift of communication and how to communicate your ideas, because traditionally young people have been underrepresented in the decision-making process. And I want to jump to another master public speaker, Will Stoikovsky, if that's how you pronounce your surname. Mate, you are an incredible public speaker. I've learned a lot of communication techniques from you. What skills have you learned from Youth Parliament?
Well, I mean, at the very basic level, like what was just said, I mean, the whole premise of the Parliament program is that you go into chambers and you learn how to speak out loud, and you learn how to communicate your views and your values. I mean, everyone has a bill, everyone is trying to put that forward, and in most cases, everyone is really passionate about what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, a lot of it comes down to just watching the task force. I remember being a participant and seeing the task force run the sessions and just thinking, these people have no problem at all speaking in a group of 120 people and having absolute confidence in what they were saying and not doubting themselves in any way whatsoever. And I thought, you know, I really want to be one of those people. I want to be able to communicate with people in that way. I want to be able to put across the message that young people can put forward their views, and they don't have to be ashamed of their views. And
so
I think
learning from example,
exactly,
looking at how people can, you know, I suppose, carry themselves and represent their beliefs and speak, and you learn from that.
I think it's a very historical thing that people assume that with more years comes more experience and more knowledge. But I think that what Youth Parliament proves is that you don't need 30 years of life experience to be able to have an opinion and put that opinion forward. You know, you don't even perhaps need 16 years, which is where Youth Parliament starts. I mean,
a belief is a belief.
Exactly. Experience doesn't correlate to the years that you've been alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I want to jump over to you again, mate. How old are you again, sorry?
I'm 22 now.
22, yeah. So you're sort of in the mid-range of the 16 to 25-year-old. age group. You're sort of one of the notable alumni that came through the Youth Parliament for 1 year, and I suppose supported so many youth parliamentarians. You're a wonderful, wonderful youth premier. What skills did you personally draw from the Youth Parliament, and how have you used them in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. I guess being in that kind of mid-range, you've got kind of middle child syndrome. Like you're not old enough to really command respect, and you're not young enough to really have that really wide-eyed view. But then again, I've learned to really use that perspective of having a broad view and a broad understanding, and from having that at different levels. And I think that's really important because, you know, it reflects real Parliament. We've got people from different backgrounds, and just like us, you've got people from really, as far as Wodonga, down to people right in the middle of the city. And I think that's just a really great way just to have a divergence of views, and to really, you know, ask those hard questions that we all, as young Victorians and young Australians, really need to grapple with. So I think that's been very useful.
Yeah, I suppose the capacity and the environment to sort of talk about issues that sometimes we neglect to discuss. You know, simply having the forum there, the chambers of Parliament, you know, the Legislative Assembly, the Legislative Council, to just talk about issues is a wonderful gift to be given to young people. So we've talked a little bit about the political side of things, the gifts that Youth Parliament gives us, you know, the ideas and sort of information it arms young Victorians with to go out and make decisions for themselves. I want to sort of flip it around now and talk about Youth Parliament more from a YMCA perspective. So for those who aren't familiar with Youth Parliament, it is one of the largest youth lobbying bodies in Victoria. The polemical impact it's had on legislation is incredible, absolutely incredible. But more than that, it's a youth empowerment scheme. It energises and mobilises young people to be active in their communities. Erin, you're a prime example of how Youth Parliament can, you know, I suppose arm you with the information to go out and make change, but build the confidence within you, would you say?
Absolutely. Build the confidence to listen to other people as well. I think that's an important point to make, and listen to other people in your community. Yeah. And also to think critically about issues and advocate for them personally and eventually professionally for many of us. Yeah.
Do you feel like after Youth Parliament, this is sort of what I felt, I think a lot of people have felt, is you sort of come out with this indefinable bubble inside of you of happiness and excitement, and this sort of perhaps slightly naive, but I don't buy that really. Perhaps it's a wonderful feeling of weightlessness. Like you can do whatever you want, you know, you can do whatever you'd like.
Pure energy.
Yeah, pure energy, I know. Zen, I think maybe is probably the wrong word for it. Rainbow, is that something you felt when you came out of the Youth Parliament?
I think the reason you feel that is because you have achieved so much in such a, you know, in such a short period. The week being, you know, the main week, but obviously there's 6 months almost of build up. But the reason I felt like that is because I did things that I'd never thought I could possibly do as a participant and then on task force. And learning all those new skills and then using them during the week, you feel like you can do whatever you want afterwards, because the confidence that you've got from some of the stuff you've done. Like, some of obviously me as a participant, it was a long time ago, so my kind of confidence comes more from the later years on task force. So that's what I think of when you say this. But
Delara, I've heard a metaphor used that I really like, and it's when you first do the first level of a video game, it's really difficult and it's frustrating and it's challenging, and often you don't succeed. But then you go and play it again a year later and you find it incredibly easy, and you wonder how you're ever challenged by it. You know, would you be able to use that metaphor and think about Youth Parliament? Did you find it difficult at first, and by the end of it you couldn't even recognise the old Delara from 2 years ago? Yeah, definitely, because in my first year I entered the program not knowing what to expect. Sure. And I was all these parliamentary procedures and how to dress yourself and how to write a bill and how to present in Parliament House. All of these things were really foreign to me. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have the support of two really good first years, Maria and Hyacinth. Yeah. They were both really, really great with showing me what to do, you know, helping me out when it comes to writing speeches or whatever. And last year, being the only second year on the team, I felt like I had to... What team? Sorry, what was the team? Oh, sorry, Pascoval Girls College. Yep. I felt like
I wanted to help out the first years as much as Marie and Hyacinth had helped me.
Yeah.
And
So it's a cycle, isn't it?
yeah, it is, definitely, because like, for example, Morgan and Bianca, who are the second years on this year's team,
Yeah.
like, they're probably feeling the same way as I did when I entered my second year. I felt like everything was a lot more familiar.
Yeah.
And I felt like it had given me a lot of confidence because I did learn so much the previous year.
Yep.
So yeah, you could definitely apply that metaphor to the program.
Absolutely. Will, do you feel like if you hadn't done Youth Parliament, you'd be the does you are now? Or does it have that sort of weight or impact in your life?
No, I think it definitely kickstarts something in everybody's life when they.
You think that everyone gets a
start.
jolt from Youth Parliament in some way or another?
Well, I don't know. Everyone's probably a very big statement to make, but I think if not, the very majority of people, as soon as they've done a program like Youth Parliament, for instance, Youth Parliament was probably the first program or kind of involvement I had in my larger community, and as soon as I'd finished with it, I thought, gee, I just want to be involved in a lot more things in my community, not even in my community, in the greater kind of global community. It started,
Absolutely.
you know, it just starts a cycle. Like, I think just because the Youth Parliament experience is such a great one, it just starts off on a good note, and it really just provides you with that, extra incentive to become involved. Definitely.
Absolutely. I think, and direct this one to Chris, is that from the public speaking or emanating from individuals. You know, your world opens up and you get so excited about this person you've just met. As Youth Premier last year, I was so proud to see you give people a taste of that, of what it means to be engaged and excitable and friendly and approachable. Do you still have that bubble now, even though it's been a year, mate? Or?
I think I definitely do. It's I mean, I guess I'm not as vibrant as I was before the program as I was after.
Sure.
And I think part of that comes back down to what you really achieve, and I think just to like reiterate those words, like the think global and
I don't think
and
we've got
hashtag
the technology for that.
hashtag
Hashtag think local or something global.
but yeah, with person, but again, the weight of standing on giants. You're representing young people, and you're representing the views of those who couldn't be there, who might not even know this program exists, but you're the voice.
Yeah.
So try and understand. No, just kidding.
With one-liners tonight, my friend.
But yeah, it's an overwhelming power, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jared, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I just want to touch on that idea. I feel like even just after the training weekend, through the media articles some of the teams have got and all the news items, I feel like the youth can get out there, they can have their say and be heard. And I think even just from the two-day camp, you get that feeling and that sense of being able to make a difference, really.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things that, you know, I knew all of you before this discussion began, but something that I'm really, really sort of excited and privileged to find out is the different areas where you've all come from. Maybe it's from the YMCA or from your school. For me, it was my mum making me go. But I'm very glad that she did. The next question I have, I'm going to throw it to you, Rainbow. Where to after Youth Parliament? You've had this incredible experience. You're feeling confident and excited. You're knowledgeable. You've made new friends. What next, mate?
What next now is a good question because I'm working that out. What next after I did it when I was a lot younger? Because
So what did you do?
Well, for me, I'd always wanted to go overseas and experience the world. So at that point, it was literally just travel. And as soon as I started traveling, I realized how that's quite a self-serving thing to do.
Yeah.
And all the great stuff I'd done with the YMCA through Youth Parliament and other youth focused programs, I'd gotten such a great buzz of giving back to other people. So as soon as you're kind of all of a sudden traveling and sitting on a beach somewhere and you go, well, this is kind of not really as rewarding as what I had been doing. So I guess it gave me the courage to go and do what I'd always wanted to do. And at that point, it wasn't university. It was working out what's out there. And then that led to, you know, years of different volunteer placements, different jobs, I've probably done every job under the sun and tried everything. But I think Youth Parliament has allowed me to, I guess, the confidence to keep just following that vibe of, doing what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think that's even now, later in life. I'm a disability support worker now, so it's still working with people, but it definitely is helping me work out the next big step because it's helped shape who I am. So.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's a really, really good point. Aaron, I sort of want to ask you this because, as I mentioned earlier, the achievements that you have undertaken since you finished Youth Parliament are often sort of referred to as our famous alumni. Like everyone's heard the name Erindale. Ooh, Erindale.
It's also the name of 2 suburbs. Maybe they're getting a bit confused.
Yeah, Erindale is very leafy, isn't it? That's actually a person. Look, it's really interesting to talk to. That's probably a terrible joke, actually. But
Erindale is located in Erindale.
I suppose Rainbow was talking a little bit about what lies after Youth Parliament. I would say that you are an exceptional alumni of Youth Parliament, what you've gone on to do. Are the youth parliamentarians exceptional people, or are they from sort of an everyday walk? Like, are they just the normal people from your class, from a university, from your sports club, or are they the creme de la creme of young people? What do you think?
A bit of both. They're
Sure.
normal people, everyday people, but they're exceptional people.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely representative of the young people of Victoria.
Yeah, a fair mix, a fair mix. I'd like to remind everyone watching at home or in an internet cafe or perhaps abroad that if you'd like to ask us a question on Twitter, the hashtag is ParliLIVE. I'm going to move slightly to a sort of a different area now. We've talked a lot about how Youth Parliament is a serious personal and self-empowerment program. It has an incredible role to play in the politics of Victoria and also in the formation, confidence in young people. But it's also a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Will, what's your fondest memory of Youth Parliament?
Fondest memory? There's too many to really specify down to one, but I have a really clear image of last year on one of the recreational days, which is the Wednesday of camp.
Yeah, sure.
And just in the final event of the day where everything kind of went crazy and, there was paint being thrown around in one of the activities and, breadcrumbs and just a whole assortment of things being thrown everywhere in this kind of final battle between participants and task force. And
is that when the task force, I think the rec task force, were making all the participants look one way, and then task force crept up behind them and threw water balloons at them?
That's exactly what happened.
It's not exactly the actions of youth parliamentarians.
Exactly. But I mean, is it?
Yeah, good question.
But I remember being halfway through the battle being cornered by 3 participants, one with vinegar in their hands, one with some water balloons, and I think another had breadcrumbs. And I was just thinking, guys, I'm on your side. Just leave me be. But of course, to no avail.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I was covered in vinegar, and that's definitely one of the fun, just because it's such a different atmosphere to being in chambers. I mean, one of the most important parts of the program is being in chambers and having that kind of political side to it, where you're debating something that you're really passionate about. You're debating a topic that you've written a bill about. Yeah. But just as equally important is the recreational side to the camp, where you're back on camp and you're there for 7 nights.
That's it. Yeah.
And just the fun parts about it and all the activities that you take part in and all the friends that you make. And I mean, I have friends to this day that I've made during my first 2 years as a participant and even as a member of task force that are some of my closest friends.
I think that might be us.
Well, I mean, it's undeniable. But, I mean,
Chris, you had your year in Youth Parliament. What's your fondest memory? When is the time? I mean, I can't remember looking at you without you having a huge smile on your face, but that might have been because you're sleep deprived.
Probably. Bit of column A, bit B.
What's your fondest memory, mate?
Oh, look, again, there's just so many. I think probably pay tribute to Shay with his lovely stories about Aunt Marge losing the friends. But I think there were a lot of our friend Mulazi, 2012
we
is
do
out
say
there.
hello
And,
to our friend Mulazi.
Yes. And I think it brought out a lot of the taskies, and we certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah, Jared, I mean, I know you are the Youth Premier. This is your first year of Youth Parliament. Were you a little bit surprised by how it's called Youth Parliament, it's about youth engagement, civic activism, active democracy? Were you a little bit surprised to come along and see so much mess and fun and loudness and songs and silliness?
Yeah, well, I'd done a camp with the Y before, and I I thought, yeah, there'd be a bit of that, but youth parliament, a bit more formal. You know, we've got to wear suits and all that.
Yeah.
Get in there, like it's just full on craziness. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember some really fun memories of my sort of time in youth parliament, and I remember thinking, oh, you know, I've got to go and I've got to be prim and proper, and I have to make sure that, you know, I've got the double Windsor tie, and I remember getting there and everyone's singing a song, and I thought I was about to join a cult. You know, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm about to be inducted into a church, you know. But in the end, it really just does break down so many barriers. Delara, when you first came onto youth parliament, you were 15, 16,
I was
15? 15. Were you a little bit freaked out by how much fun people were having?
Actually, I was a little bit, because I actually went to the program expecting, you know, a lot of debating and a lot of seriousness, but to see that side of the program was really shocking, actually, but it was in a good way, obviously, because
A shock,
a
per se.
good shock, yes, because I really enjoyed it, and then I got to know that it was not just a serious program. There's also a huge element of fun involved in it, and once you like kind of accept that, you can get a lot more out of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've just got to sort of take it on board, I suppose.
Of course. And you're not inducted into a cult at all.
No cult. Erin, you've been out of the program for a little while now. I know that you've been sort of following where Youth Parliament's going. What are your hopes for Youth Parliament in the future? I mean, you're someone who's got an interest in it, a vested interest. You've come through the program yourself. Where do you want to see Youth Parliament in 5, 10, 20 years?
Gosh. Firstly, I want it to be existing, and I want it to be very, very much entrenched in the public policy landscape.
Sure.
I went on to work in public policy, and that passion for legislation came from Youth Parliament. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible that young people are picked up off the street, they put a suit on, they stand up in Parliament, they talk about a bill, they hand, the bill is passed, it's handed over to a member of Parliament,
it's nuts,
a politician, or perhaps a member of the Cabinet, or even the Premier of Victoria, and that goes on to become legislation.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible.
It is nuts.
And I want to see a hell of a lot more of that.
Wow. Amen. Rainbow, what do you see for the future of Youth Parliament? You're someone who I can think of that has given an exceptional amount to Youth Parliament yourself, and Kieran Ryan as well, who is also a mentor of mine, shaped my Youth Parliament experience. Where do you want to see Youth Parliament in 5, 10 years?
Thanks, mate. To be honest, I just want it to keep going the way it is. It seems to when I finished, it was the 25th year. It's now the 27th, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
27 years, and it still seems to be growing and gaining momentum. Like the stuff that we were doing in my last year blew my mind, and that it was the stuff that I really wanted to get out there, and we managed to get a lot of it going. But even like 2 years down the track, the stuff that you guys are doing now blows my mind again. And I think I obviously want it to continue. But I think as time goes on, there'll be new challenges and new success stories for the organisers and participants. And so it's just, I kind of don't want it to change in that way. Yeah. In that slow momentum of getting better and better and better. So
Delara, you've been gone from the program. This will be your first year from the program since you started. Where do you want Youth Parliament to be when you're 27?
Well, hopefully by that time there'll be a lot more knowledge on the program, because still when people ask me, what are you doing on the holidays? Oh, Youth Parliament. That I still have to explain it to them, and hopefully by the time I'm 27, that it'll be so big that people know what it is anyway. Yeah. Without having to explain it. And, I love this program. I'm an advocate for the program because I think it's so great. Yeah. And just for it to continue, I think is the number one thing, because after people leave the program, they'll see how great it is. Yeah. And they'll tell their friends about it, who will tell their friends about it. Sure. It's a cycle. And it
is a cycle.
It is. And
it seems to be going from strength to strength each year.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Will, this year is your 5th year with the program or 4th year?
4th year with the program.
Where do you want the Youth Parliament of Victoria to be in 15 years?
In 15 years, well, sadly I won't be a part of it anymore, most likely in 15 years. Yeah. But I think my vision for the program at the moment is just having it grow. I mean, the formula that we're running at the moment, in my opinion, is a fantastic formula. I mean, everybody that takes part in it is always so happy with it, and they
Can you elaborate a little bit on that formula? What's so wonderful about Youth Parliament now?
I think just the mixture of people that are able to take part in it. I mean, it's not just 120 inner city kids with inner city values. I mean, there's 120 kids from all around Victoria, and the ability of the program to bring together all of these views and values and really create a program that honestly does represent the views of the entire youth. I mean, the entire youthful population of Victoria. It's just a great formula. And I mean, in my opinion, the task force this year and in all previous years have been fantastic without seeming biased. I mean, I am, but in all honesty, I think the task force are chosen every year with, an amazing set of values, each of them. And I think the only way for the program to go is forward. I mean, I think that every year it should be growing, taking steps forward, even if there's just small steps or larger steps. The more the merrier. But I think that the formula we have right now is amazing, and the only way is definitely forward into bigger and better things. I mean, a larger program would be amazing. 20 teams at the moment. Why not 30? Why not 50 in 15 years?
A bigger program, more opportunities for more young people.
The ability to represent even more youth in the program.
Chris, you were a first year in your youth premiership. What advice do you have for first years who are going into Youth Parliament?
Don't hold back. Don't even think about holding back. Just get into it and really, talk hard, because it's your opportunity. And to be on the program, I think, was an honour in itself. But to get out there and really take it by the reins and really milk it for every single drop that you can, I think you just got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jared, this year you're going to be the Youth Premier. You're going to be the leader of 120 passionate young people who are it's so exciting. It's a huge responsibility, because the 120 youth parliamentarians of Victoria are seen to be representative of Victorian young people. You are their elected representative this year. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? What do you want to see happen?
I just want to see everyone have a great time. Put their message across. I think that's very important. And just have a rocking week. Get what they want to say heard, and pretty much that.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's really exciting. I think that Youth Parliament has changed since it first begun. There's no doubt that in its 27-year history, Youth Parliament has adapted and it's changed and it's altered, sometimes for the worse, and then we pick ourselves up and we get better. Just like with any organisation, it's dynamic, it's exciting, and every individual who has come through the Youth Parliament has a story to tell. Whether you're coming for the empowerment or the confidence or the public speaking or the friendships or the exposure to the ideas, of the tens of thousands of youth parliamentarians that have currently come through the Youth Parliament of Victoria, everyone can agree that the Youth Parliament is a formative experience. It's an incredible experience. And I suppose on that note, while I'm joined here by the giants on which the rest of us stand on the shoulders of, I think that it's really important that we recognise how powerful young people are when they put their minds to it. So on that note, I'd like you to put your hands together for our panellists tonight. I've got a couple of thank yous I'd like to make. Paul Kneebone from Swinburne Student Association, also Swinburne University for giving us this wonderful venue tonight, St Joseph's College from Ferntree Gully for the technology, the youth premiers and the special guests like I've just mentioned, all the event staff that have given up time to make this incredible Youth Parliament Australia first. This has never happened before, and somebody that needs no introduction but should certainly be given a hearty round of applause for organising all this, but being the brains trust behind incredible social media campaign this year, Mr. Kane Hill. So put your hands together. So on that note, thank you very much, panellists, and thank you for all those who've tuned in and posted questions on Twitter. My name's Ollie Tripodi, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience to host this panel discussion.